Welcome to Harlem Liberation School. We are a dynamic black nationalist and Pan-Africanist organization headquartered in Harlem, dedicated to empowering black people to, in the words of Brother Malcolm X, wake up, clean up, and stand up. Our mission is to equip you with the tools and knowledge needed to resist oppression and build thriving, independent communities. Here you'll find powerful black political education, deep liberation theory, and historical insights that connect our past struggles to present-day solutions. Through many courses, engaging documentaries, and inspiring commentary, we provide actionable information designed to spark change. Join us for thought-provoking interviews with brilliant activists, educators, and institution builders as we unite to build a better future for black people worldwide. Please remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Peace and Black Power. Peace and Black Power, families. Brother Agyei Tyehimba from Harlem Liberation School, where we teach black people to, as you should know by now, wake up, clean up, and stand up. That's why we greet you with Wukusu, means wake up, clean up, stand up. Today, family, we have a very important show. Of course, I'm biased because I think all of the shows are important. Family, I'm part of a beautiful, I'm going to say, formation that we call a brotherhood. I say it's beautiful not in a flattering way, but in an actual factual way. It's composed of black men who live all over the world, who identify themselves as nationalists and Pan-African, who are educators, authors, activists, community organizers, and such, many of whom are former members of Marcus Garvey's UNIA organization, all of whom are dedicated to the liberation of black people, African people, and new African people. Take your pick of designation. So I'm really proud to be a part of a group of brothers that we could all talk the talk. Put us on the soapbox, on the street corner. We're going to bring the people out. We got that gift of gab. But we also are people who are in the lab doing that work that's going to put those ideas into fruition, that's going to make the dreams of Garvey and Malcolm, Chokwe Lumumba and Sada and Black Panther Party and Republic of New Africa come alive, and that's what I'm excited about. Today we're going to be talking about Pan-Africanism, past, present, and future, and we should have maybe 3 members of the Brotherhood coming on. I'm going to bring them in now. And I'm going to greet my brothers. Peace to the brothers. How you doing?
Peace, Bubba. How you doing, brother?
Peace, brother. Peace, brother. And congratulations, Chief Foday, on 12 years.
Thank you so much, man. I'm sorry I can't put my camera on right now due to the lights, but yeah, I appreciate you, PG. Thank you.
Listen, family, before we even get started, we have an important event coming up, I believe on the 22nd. Can Brother Akilki, better known as PG, in the building, could you kind of bring us up to speed on what this event is about and why it's important?
On the 22nd, we will be doing a roundtable discussion addressing multiple topics to bring some enlightenment to our race and to the people that join the show. I'm going to yield to Chief Foday, who may very well have the topics in front of him. The topics range from talking about Project 2025 to Pan-Africanism, Africanism, and global African unity. So, Chief Foday, you can hit those topics a little better than I can.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, the very important thing about this particular African State of Emergency Roundtable is that we'll be honoring Malcolm, Lumumba, and Fanon. And, they were all born in 1925. So this is their first centennial since their birth. And, we got to keep with the revolutionary tradition. We don't forget those who gave their lives for us. And so we're going to be honoring them on the 22nd. But some of the table topics, we'll talk about Garvey's pardon and the ongoing fight to free all political prisoners. We'll talk about Rwanda, Congo crisis. We really need to put that into perspective.
Yeah.
We'll talk about the AES, setting new standards in terms of what Pan-Africanism looks like politically on the continent.
Today.
And then importance of an education that teaches about Malcolm, Lumumba, and Fanon. And we must protect our leaders. Security is a priority.
Excellent, excellent. And that is February 22nd. I
22nd.
believe that's at 2 p.m. Eastern
1 p.m.
and
EST.
1 p.m. 1 p.m.
1 p.m. Eastern. Thank you, my brothers. And we're gonna see that live on Kimbunga Media on YouTube. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Excellent, excellent. All right. Hope you all will come out. And you know what? I think I could be wrong. I think that our ancestor Robert Williams may have been born in 25. I could
Yes,
be
Okay.
he
wrong.
was. Yes, he was. Yes, he was.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's
And it
another
goes with
great.
guns.
Yeah.
Let's support our ancestors, family, coming out. These are three brothers. I'm not gonna get into it now. We're gonna save it for the 22nd. But these are three giants
But
in terms
but
of
we
their
can
work.
we can touch on it now because they are the giants.
Yeah, yeah.
Fanon,
Well,
Malcolm. Um,
And you
there's no
know,
way you cannot embellish their meaning and their value and their contribution to what we've been able to accomplish by way of developing our minds, by also being able to institute the consciousness of African people across the board. So we can talk a little bit about them today too, if you choose.
oh yes, sir. You know we're gonna
yeah.
get to it. I have a question. I'm gonna have y'all kind of elaborate on that in a different way, from a different angle. But we definitely gonna get to our brothers. Um, I just want to quickly shout out some people who are in the building with us. Rising Phoenix, Jadorian Shirmarenga says peace and honor. Our good brother who's part of the Brotherhood, Shakara. My lovely queen, we had a beautiful Akoma day yesterday. I felt so special sitting there. Felt like I was soaking in the sun sitting across from this beautiful black woman. Want to shout her out, Brenda, sitting across from the sun, you know? She says Ukusa to the family. She thanks everybody for joining us, for welcoming the brothers of the Jicho La Kimbunga Brotherhood. Shakara. Oh, very good. Shakara mentions Mega Evers also.
Yeah.
That
Yes, sir.
1925 was a
as
serious
as
year,
Lumumba
man.
and Lumumba,
Wow.
yeah, and
And
Lumumba.
Lumumba,
It was a powerful.
woo,
It's a powerful time. It's a
serious
powerful
time.
time. The
It's
Riding
ancestors.
with
all.
gas.
It's also the year. It's also the year that they took Garvey off the streets.
Yeah,
That's right.
It's also the
that's
year that
right.
they incarcerated Marcus Messiah Garvey.
That's right. That's right. So we got a lot to talk about, fam. We're gonna get in and to the brotherhood members that are part of the panel. You guys, I know, are used to breaking it down to the very last compound. I want you to imagine that most of our audience are 20-year-olds, though. I want you to imagine that most of our audience are young people who have a very vague understanding of Pan-Africanism, probably have some myths about Pan-Africanism, and see yourselves as helping them to understand what this is all about, so that when they hear anti Pan-Africanist propaganda, they can counter it with real information. So let's start with the basics. What exactly is Pan-Africanism, and why should a young brother or sister, that's 18 to 24 years old, care about it or get involved with it?
I'm going to. I'll speak first this time, and then I'll yield and let my young brother Chief Foday speak first, so that we can get a round table. Your question, if I understand correctly, is why should an 18-year-old realize the value of Pan Africanism? Well, that 18-year-old has been brought up in a society that has utilized us as the people and therefore kept us separated and kept us without a defining term to unify and bring us together. Marcus Messiah Garvey, as an example, and not the only man, but the man that whose rock I stand on, looked about the world and said, "What you can do, we have a right to do as well." We as a people should not be dependent upon our oppressor. We should not be dependent upon those who have exploited us. We need to have a concept and a philosophy that unifies us regardless of any of our differences. So at 18 years old, as you are trying to maneuver in this world, recognize that the color of your skin has to be your badge of honor and has to unite you with those who are the same as you. Historically, that was a challenge for us. And it was a challenge because there was such distance. And then they implemented and implanted in our thinking that you aren't the same as me, and therefore you can't be as good as me. So we want our youth to understand that being of African descent, wherever you are, unifies you with people of the same race. Pan-Africanism is not just racial, it is cultural, it is political, it is economical, it is educational. It is the rock upon which you must stand in order for you to be able to move forward in this world, because our unity is going to be the crux. Pan-Africanism says across the world, not just Africa, but across the world, we can stand as one.
As always, a brother Akilki just dropped a bomb, like the Gap Band back in the day. Dropped a bomb on us with that. Brother Mansa, also affectionately known as Chief. Is there anything you want to add to that when we talk about helping the younger people in the movement or coming into the movement? What is Pan-Africanism? Why should they care about it? Why is it important? How would you answer that? What would you add on? Okay. I'm gonna keep it moving on. That's okay. We'll get back to Chief in a minute. By the way, y'all, Brother Mansa is broadcasting from Sierra Leone. And every now and then there are issues with the power going out or the lights coming off. So you're gonna have to bear with our brother, understand that's just what it is. We're gonna keep it moving. As he can come in, he will come in and he will contribute. Brother PG, Brother Akilki. First of all, brother, PG,
Yes, sir.
UNIA. What's your
Yes,
help
sir.
people understand what's your position in Marcus Garvey's UNIA so they can understand?
And UNIA ACLRC 2020, I am the President General of the movement, the organization, the government. And I say all those things because people will try to put us in those categories. We are the government of the UNIA ACL Rehabilitating Committee, rehabilitating not just the UNIA, but working to rehabilitate the race, which is why your first question was so on time. Because when we look at our youth today, you see our youth are scattered and you see our youth are caught up in a myriad of things. But the one thing we have to begin to stress to them is know who you are. Know who your ancestors are. Know not just your family, but know the ancestors that contributed to the racial development that we stand on. We didn't get here just by faith, y'all. We got here by hard work and sacrifice. And because it was hard work and sacrifice, what we have to embrace is hard work and sacrifice. We have to also make sure that we understand the movement. So when you hear PG, President General, that means I'm responsible for the activities of the Rehabilitating Committee 2020 UNIA ACL, and that as we move forward, outreaching into the world, Chief Foday in Sierra Leone is the third assistant president general, and he's on the continent of Africa. Historically, he is only the second president general to be on the continent of Africa and founded there. And as his work in Sierra Leone is more than important, it is essential because after all, everyone, we need to understand going home is going to be the goal. Free in Africa going to be the goal. But I want to be clear. If you don't, we don't need you to come to Africa and try to work if you ain't willing to do some work.
That's right. If
Garvey
you ain't
said,
doing nothing here, don't go to Africa.
don't go to Africa and
Marcus
do nothing.
Garvey said that himself, didn't he,
So he
PG?
said, he said, everybody ain't got to come home. That's what he said.
That's right. Now, I guess I relate going back to your first point that we should use this time to talk about some of the brothers we're honoring. Who would you say, Brother Akilki, are some of the important and pioneering Pan-African leaders that we should study or that we should know about?
I think there's many. I think there are many that we should study. Of course, I would start with Marcus Garvey, but I will also start with Edward Blyden. I give you that name as well. I would give you Amos Wilson. I give
Mm,
you Kwame Nkrumah. The names are modern, but yet historical. We talked about Malcolm earlier. I would give you Malcolm as a person to study, and there will be a terminology that you might not hear, but what you hear in Malcolm's speeches and in Malcolm's language is a racial unification. What Malcolm was about to do was branch out and take us to another level that wasn't going to be just based on Islam, but be based on who you are and who we can be. So I would study Malcolm. I would study Francis Fanon, the names that we've mentioned. But there are many, uh, sometimes too many to even mention. Uh, Chancellor Williams is another
yes, sir.
historian. Ben Sefu Stokana, whom I had the pleasure of meeting and traveling with. I mean, but study and understand that studying is to learn who you are. Chief is back, so I'm gonna let him jump right in here.
All right,
Yeah,
Chief, we see
greetings.
you back, brother. Um, who are some of the exemplary brothers and sisters that you would consider pioneers with respect to Pan-Africanism that anyone watching this that says, man, I want to know more about it, they should know these people, they should study them? Who would some of those people be as you see it?
All right. Well, some of them ideologically, I would say, come from very early on, the earlier
Hmm.
developments. You would say people like Queen Nanny. You would say people
Mm,
like the Haitian revolutionaries, because they had the ideal of unifying across the tribes because we were being oppressed as black people. They had the ideal of doing, unifying the race against the whites who were enslaving us. And so that just that ideal alone is the beginning of Pan Africanism. Resisting oppression is the beginning of Pan Africanism. And so, given that position, I would say Martin Delany is
Mm,
a
yep.
ideological father of Pan Africanism. You have people like, of course, you have brother Daniel Coker, who was
Hmm.
a brother who repatriated back in the day. He brought his own independent repatriation group to Sierra Leone. You have people like Paul Kufi among that
Hmm.
earlier group,
Yep.
right? And then I would say later on, you got people like Bishop Henry McNeil Turner,
Hmm.
straight out of South Carolina.
Straight out of South
Um,
Carolina.
that's right. You got people
Straight out
like
of South Carolina.
Thomas W. Harvey, straight out of Georgia. And so, and I can't forget about Queen Mother Moore. Can't
Yep.
forget about Queen Amy Jocks Garvey,
Give me Amy James
um,
Garvey.
Henrietta Vinton. These were revolutionary people who thought of the whole entire black race as a single nation. And of course, within Pan Africanism, you have different schools of thoughts. But in general, I would name those ones because typically we don't talk about the pioneers, those who
No.
first expressed the ideals that gave birth to the movement. In more contemporary times, I would highlight even those like Kwame Nkrumah, like Baba has said. Um, also Sekou Touré at a certain
Yep.
point in his life. Sekou
Hmm.
Touré of Guinea. Kwame Touré, also formerly known as Stokely Carmichael. You have some people who have been Pan Africanists in the United States for a very long time and still are today. You have people like Baba Mukasa Ricks, Baba
yes,
Mukasa.
sir.
You got other Pan Africanists out there. And the thing about Pan Africanism is that it's not about being a celebrity. It's about putting in
Right.
work. And it's hard to see who's who, but those are some of the names that I would put out there, definitely. And last but not least, Baba Malcolm X Shabazz. He was a bona fide Pan Africanist, regardless of his religious preference.
because it
Thank
wasn't
you for that.
Pan-Africanism.
Both.
Pan,
Yes.
but that's one thing to add to that, because he was absolutely all that, and I mentioned him as well. But I would also go and say G2AUC out of New York, Big Black,
Mm,
would be another Pan-Africanist to
I
study.
say.
yeah.
And there are some Pan-Africanists that we will know of, but if you were not involved, you might not find any material on them. But let's understand that Pan-Africanism covers so much mental work for race building, and let us not forget that.
That's right. And let's not forget somebody. See, I love the interactivity of this StreamYard platform. Brother Roderick Gas says Thomas Sankara, who would be
Yeah.
immensely proud of Brother Ibrahim in Burkina
Mm,
Faso right now.
Absolutely.
Immensely
Absolutely.
yep.
He's a
proud of him,
rebirth.
man.
Right.
Carrying on his legacy. Native American Readings is reminding us that Brother Malcolm's mother and father were also
Yes.
Pan-Africanists. They
Garveyites.
were
They were
Garveyites. Yeah,
Garveyites.
Absolutely.
They
that's right.
absolutely met here in Philadelphia at the
All
Liberty
right
Hall
now.
in Philly. That's right. They actually met here.
See, so
And
we have a
you
lot of
mentioned
people,
Thomas
family.
J. Harvey. Yeah. It's
If we
Charles
did a
O.
roll
James
call, we
too.
wouldn't finish this broadcast. There's many Africans that have been part of this movement.
Yeah.
Many
Hey,
Africans.
But
Wait, we
hey
got Brother
Baba.
Sam K. Brother
Hey
yes.
Sam
Baba.
P.K. Let me bring him on. Brother Sam, how you doing, good brother?
Peace. I'm doing well. How are you?
Man. What's up,
Hey
brother?
Peace
You
and
man, I'm
good?
blessings, brother.
breathing. I'm here with you, brothers, man. I'm feeling good to see this energy percolating up in here, man. My brother, could you please add on? We're talking about Pan-Africanism, past, present, and future. We talked about the very important event that we're hosting on the 22nd, honoring Brother Malcolm, Patrice Lumumba, and Brother Frantz Fanon. We kind of defined Pan-Africanism. I'm curious to know. I'm going to start this question with you. As you understand it, what was the original goal of Pan-Africanism, and has that changed over time? You know how you may have nationalism. You got cultural nationalists that wear dashikis, change their names, practice certain holidays. You got the revolutionary nationalists that's talking about strapping up, overthrowing the government, building our own independence. You got the economic nationalists that talking about black capitalism. Let's pool our money, right? So it expresses differently. I'm assuming that the same is true for Pan-Africanism. It started a certain way, and it may have kind of evolved in other ways. What's your take on that, Brother Sam?
My understanding is that Pan-Africanism at this point is a catch-all phrase, for all of those people that you just described. Although, depending on what type of nationalist you are, you might not be a Pan-Africanist. You might be a nationalist who is focused more so on building a separate state rather than identifying with other Africans around the world. But Pan-Africanism has become a catch-all phrase. And, I would say to some degree to the detriment of young people coming into the movement, because, if you're not aware of the differences or the nuances, you might find yourself within a subsect that doesn't quite align with your principles. I know, speaking for myself, I tend to go more on the nationalist side, the Garveyite side, more so than, I still have a lot of respect for the Marxists and the socialists, of course, but I'm race first all day, every day, and I'm not one to call people pork chop nationalists, things like that, because culture is still the foundation when we're talking about nation building. So we got to make those distinctions. But I identify as a Garveyite. I'm not one to, there are some bobbers in the movement who try to discourage us against making that distinction between Pan-Africanism and Garveyism. But I identify as a Garveyite because, when you look at the original name, Universal African Nationalism, that pretty much speaks to an all-encompassing mission in which we are activating the African Renaissance in all aspects of our existence. So, that's where I'm at. If the Pan-Africanism isn't being expressed by, creating African families, adopting African traditions, and beating neo-colonialism, I'm not with it. That's where I'm at, Bob.
Yes, sir.
May I
Thank you for that.
chime
Thank
into
you.
that? Because
Yes,
Brother
sir.
Sam's point is on
Yeah.
target. Because you really, and although he mentioned the inclusive statement of different parts of a type of African nationalism, you mentioned it too, economic. This, when you're a Pan-Africanist, you Africa first. You race first. You see, because if you're not race first, then what you're trying to do is utilize different entities to survive where you are, and not create for yourself. So it
Yes,
has
sir.
to be about race first. Universal Negro Improvement Association was a race is and was and will always be a race first organization.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That's
Say
right.
that. Say that, Baba.
I
Race
think we
first.
all agree.
Race
I hope
first.
we all agree on that. Brother Malcolm said, because if you black and you don't know, but you black by now, then I'm sorry for you. He has a speech where he says that very clearly. That's right.
Yeah, I still have that recording.
Yeah, that's real talk. Now, having said that, those who just tuned in, this is Harlem Liberation School. We provide black political education for our people, understanding that the education is the foundation of all movement. We are here with members of a brotherhood that I'm a part of. Jicho La Kimbunga, it means Eye of the Whirlwind. For those who are wondering, well, where'd you get this name, Eye of the Whirlwind? Let's take a guess. What black leader do we know from history said that I'll be coming back in the whirlwind? Who said that?
Mosiah.
Boom.
Messiah,
Marcus
Marcus
Garvey.
Garvey. That's right.
Yes. So see how everything connects to that Pan-African sort of feeling and sentiment. Now let me ask this, family. A lot of people measure the effectiveness of a movement based on to what degree it is threatening to the established order. Would you say that Pan-Africanism is that white power structure in not just the United States but across the world is threatened by what Pan-Africanism represents?
Let,
Absolutely.
let's use a historical reference. The Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey committed no crime, except he said to the world, what they can do, we can do better. And if we do it better, that means they can't exploit us and they can't rip and rip us. So, yeah, when you talk Pan Africanism, the whole universal white world shakes at the knees, because when you come together as a race, stop all this.
Absolutely. Hey, Baba, just to follow up on what you're saying, look at right now. Look at the Alliance of Sahel right
Mhm,
now, the AES. It is literally like a terrorist movement in the eyes of the European.
mhm.
They're going bonkers. They don't know what to do about these Africans reclaiming their rights and taking over their resources. They don't know what to do about it. And so when Pan-Africanism is more than just an ideal, when it begins to materialize and take political form, then economic and cultural transformations take place. And so you have people, like Baba was saying earlier, you have people who prefer to see Pan-Africanism as something economic, I guess because they can gain, everyone can gain from it materially. However, Pan-Africanism, I believe, always has been a political movement, a movement for power. You asked Brother Sam the question in terms of that as well, and I would say that Pan Africanism is all about the liberation and unification of Africa and African people,
Yes, sir.
flat out. Now, different people will define that differently. Some people would say, well, that means this and that means that. But as for, myself, just like the other on the panel, I'm a Garveyite. It's strictly universal African nationalism because Pan-Africanism for me is more of a worldview, more of a context, more of a call for unity. But
Right.
universal African nationalism is an actual political ideology that helps us to
Yes.
look at our material position. We can reference the positions and the politics of our ancestors directly because they literally recorded it for us in the Negro world in the different newspapers and journalists
Hmm.
outlets that they utilize. So we have our own historical development of a revolutionary ideal. And when you see it taking place now, I believe that in the 60s, 50s, and 60s, when Nkrumah was at his height, you've seen the influence of Garveyism, the influence of universal African nationalism, not only in his symbology, but also in his call for a political unity of of the
Continent Africa.
continent.
Right.
Him saying the universal, the United States of Africa was Garvey's position.
Right.
Later on, when you see Gaddafi saying, let's shut down the OAU and do the AU so we can include the diaspora, that was Africa for Africans, those at home and those abroad, manifesting politically in the world. And so Pan-Africanism is the greatest threat to global white supremacy, to capitalism, to all these other isms, schisms that we fight in, the greatest threat is Pan-Africanism manifested, because that means we will be free and united.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Listen, family, make sure this is not one of those broadcasts. You're like, oh, that was entertaining. I like how he said this. You getting real information here, family. If I were you, as the classroom teacher in me, I would take notes. I'm telling you, you should have a pen and paper. You should be jotting down these names they're mentioning. We're going to talk about resources later in the program. For those of you who want to know more about Pan-Africanism books, you should read. You should really be taking notes on this, family. I also want to say this real quick and then move on to the next question. It's important that we study history and read broadly, because some of you are Garveyites and don't know it. Some of you are Pan-Africanists and don't know it, because the people you're studying and following and the habits that you have and the culture that you're practicing in your home comes right out of these people's teachings, right? So it's important that you be able to identify where your teachings come from. So, for instance, there was a sister in Harlem named Una Mozak. She owned a bookstore called Liberation Bookstore. It was very big in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. It's basically until her death. And she left the United States, went to Guyana, fought in the revolution, had a bookstore. The bookstore got blown up by the government. Her partner died. She lived but was damaged. She came back to the United States, opened Liberation Bookstore. One of my jegnas, straight Pan-African. Her father was one of Garvey's ship captains, the Black Star Line. See, so
he was the first ship captain. He was the first ship captain, not just one, but the first ship captain.
Right. Yeah. So the point is, if you don't know the connections, you might be thinking you're doing A, B, and C. You got it from yourself. You got it from thin air. No, you didn't get it from thin air. That came from pioneers who laid the groundwork. So it's important that we identify these people, the pioneers, so to speak, and give them their due. Now, one of the things we find with Pan-Africanism, which happens with every ideology, is some division. Some say that Black people are more divided than ever. Continental Africans, Caribbeans, Black Americans, members of the diaspora, and that is a challenge that Pan-Africanism has to resolve, how to unify these different groups. Some of them have their own identity and don't see themselves as part of the diaspora. Is this true? And is Pan-Africanism a remedy for that sort of division?
Yeah.
I'm going to yield to the youth first, and I'll speak last. And I can call them youth.
Yeah, well, I think Pan-Africanism in its organizational form, in its movement form, and its legacy offers real models for how we can organize ourselves even today, and probably even more efficiently using the technology that we have. So I think it really is about understanding, like, the ideal, it's cool, but the movement, study the movement that we call Pan-Africanism historically. Look at it as a historical movement. Look at the Pan-Africanists today as the continuation of that historical movement down through the generations. And so now you have a historical frame of reference. Now you can pull from different periods and eras and individuals and movements and gain a proper understanding of what Pan-Africanism is and how it can be utilized. You understand? So it's not just an ideal. We have to study the movement in order to understand the tactics and strategies. You can understand even the enemy better by studying how we have fought them, who our enemies are, because some of them are among us, and how we have fought them. The struggle continues. Right now it's like we have lowered our guard completely. Even within our own community, we've lowered our guard to the suckers amongst us. There's always been suckers amongst us, man. There's always been cats, when it's time to turn up and reconnect to the continent, they start talking about FBA or, Africa this, or America that, red, white, and blue. They always come with the division right at the moment when it's time to reconnect. And if you really, from my perspective here on the continent, I see a lot more interest and a lot more activities happening between the diaspora in general and the continent of Africa. This is the perfect time for Pan-African movements to be revitalized and be restored. And so when you see counter movements that's emphasizing what Dr. Amos Wilson called false nationalism,
Yeah.
opportunistic nationalism, a nationalism that keeps you tied to the enemy and oppressor permanently, just under a more comfortable situation, under a different name, then you realize that, you know, we're still trapped in the same struggle. So we definitely can learn from last century, the century before that, and all even the millennia before that. Because if you read Chancellor Williams, you understand the destruction of black civilization. You understand it's taken thousands and thousands of years to get us in this position that we're in. They say 400 years because everything is Americanized. The whole world is supposed to believe that slavery happened for 400 years because that's what America say, right? And so the reality is we've been fighting the same system for thousands of years. We've been fighting the same enemies for thousands of years. And, you know, the fight, that's really what Pan-Africanism is about. Not a reaction to that, but a resolution to that, a final solving of the problem, because it's been ongoing for hundreds of generations.
Yes, sir. I had a
Sam,
question. You know, we
before you
live
move
in.
forward, before you move
Yes, sir.
forward, I wanted to hear from Sam, and I asked that for a particular reason.
Now, respect, appreciate you, Baba. You know, real briefly, what I'll say is the biggest issue we have is a lack of organization and a lack of systems that would allow us to combat the beast that is the United States or whoever else. Because the powers that be, they understand the power of Pan-Africanism, so they're doing everything in their power to co-opt it. And they do that with our best and our brightest. And they allow them to come in and take on the Pan-African initiatives to do the bidding of the United States. And a lot of that happened after the liberation movements and after the unfinished business that Malcolm X had in the United States as far as creating a nation within a nation. So what we have to do as a people is get real systematic and do our best to go beyond the rhetoric and actually develop systems so that our unity is operationalized. And we got to do that at every level of our movement, because right now we are disorganized, and a lot of us really underestimate what the meaning of a government, what a government truly entails, what it entails to run a government. You know, so as far as crowdfunding, as far as building institutions, as far as developing a rites of passage program, different things that are being done in our silos. Once we unite around that and we create systems, then we can foster community and ensure that the young people especially are getting a true understanding of Pan-Africanism, because without those institutions and that protection, our young people can fall victim to a lot of people cosplaying Pan-Africanists. And I'll leave it at that, because, you know, a lot of people who I talk to, I'm in these communities, whenever they do talk about Pan-Africanism, you know, given the fact that they're just getting into it, their first introduction is through figures who have turned into celebrities rather than real organizers. So they really don't understand. That's serious, you know.
I know.
Once, you know, and you know, that's been our issue. You know, we don't read as much anymore. We want to be entertained. You know, even with the whole Kendrick Lamar situation, you know, our people, for the most part, our political acumen has been stunted. And that's because we've allowed our young people to go into these schools and to learn Americanism and to not really understand the true meaning of self-determination. So it's incumbent upon all of us, you know, especially the African-centered schools, you know, if we are going to instill cultural understanding into our young people, we also need to teach them about, you know, politics, economics, in an African-centered manner. And then along with that, we need to strengthen our institutions so that when they do leave our schools, they're not tempted to go into the military industrial complex. Because I'm telling you right now, these Department of Defense, the CIA, ICE, they're going to the HBCUs. And I'll leave with this, because our people in this day and age are caught up in being the first attorney general, the first black attorney general, the first black 5-star general, the first black secretary of state. We're all caught up in that to the detriment of our people because we lack political acumen and an international consciousness that we would have had if a lot of our Pan-Africanists were on their A game. And I'll leave it at that, man. Thank y'all so much, man.
Yes, sir.
First and foremost, I appreciate everything that has been said, because first, I totally agree that we have to develop systems. We have to develop a governmental system and a structure that absolutely leads to this discussion that we're having. Because when you look back at the names that we've mentioned and the work that's been done, what we have to do is systematically be able to distribute this information and also give them the vehicles by which they can prosper and move forward. We've been inundated with a culture that works against who we are and works against where we're trying to go. So as we institutionalize Pan-Africanism from a Garveyite perspective, and we take a governmental structure, build the systems for education, the systems for economics, the systems for political activity, Pan-Africanism becomes the ability for us to unite across our continental and geographical area to do the same things that we're talking about, so that when our young people are growing, they're not growing to go and, as Sam said, to be the first, or growing as Chief Foday has said, to caught up and some other stuff, but they're growing in order to recreate a government for African people across the world. We built our historical understandings based on CE, the Christian era, not the era for where we stood the strongest and we were the leaders of the world.
Well said, PG. And y'all see why I roll with this brotherhood. For those of you who watching who are younger, on the younger side of things, trust and know. Be in the room with people that know more than you. Be in the organizational spaces with people who've done more than you. Don't be the type that's egotistical and you know it all. That's how you get to the place where you hear some of these brothers able to so fluidly and effortlessly break down the history and connect those dots. It's very important that we stretch our minds and we get to a place where we love knowledge the way we love foolishness, right? Love knowledge,
I like
love
that.
acquisition of facts, not for facts' sake, but so that we can make real movement. Having said that, I'm curious, brothers, if you were to come up with the one issue that would be at the top of the Pan-African agenda, as you see it, what is that thing that should be at the top of our agenda as Pan-Africanists? What would that be as you see it?
I'd say, you said issue in terms of
Yes,
like
sir.
problem, or like the top problem?
It could be a problem or thing you think we need to do. What's the number one thing that's most urgently we
Oh
need to do?
man, I think that those who are genuine Pan-Africanists need to put all differences to the side and unify now. Yeah, I would say Umoja Sasa.
Ooh. I'm sorry, Chief. You just struck a chord of a lesson that I taught. Go ahead.
Yes, I think we have to stop the petty shit. Excuse my language for people out there who, offended by a little cursing, but it comes out passionate sometimes. There's a lot of petty differences that keep us divided right now. There's already division among us because of what the oppressor did to us.
Right.
And then now we're engaged in a form of petty organizing. Like, for instance, I'm watching my social media earlier, and I see this ongoing dispute between the artist 50 Cent and the guy Big Meech. And I'm watching it and watching. I'm like, man, you wonder why these little kids who's just trying to make some money or get some attention in their neighborhood because they got poor self-esteem is utilizing social media to, upscale the murder rate. It's happening in every city, anywhere our people are at. It's happening, even in the countryside. You got these little boys wanting to be gangsters, and they following people like 50 Cent and Big Meech, and they just putting more fuel on the fire. So I think that is unity that we lack. If we was united, then we would be able to touch more of our people in different ways. I believe we have such a talented and special generation. I don't, at times we get caught up talking about the previous generations, but this tonight is the past, present, and the future. Presently, we have one of the greatest, strongest, most well-positioned generations of Pan-Africanists most informed general population of African people. Right now, Africans on the continent are soaking up the information. If you hear Ibrahim Traore speak, you would think he was in somewhere in Harlem with, you know what I mean? You would think that he studies Khalid. You
Yeah,
understand? You would think
no
that
doubt.
he's right in sync with that energy of the diaspora. And that's why his policy of saying, hey, come on home and get your citizenship is there. That's unity. That's effective political unity that resolves historical divisions. So unity on all levels, I believe, is the major issue of our time because we have everything else. We have a million organizations without unity. At one time, Kwame Ture said, organize, 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 because we didn't have enough organizations. Now we got a million organizations and no unity. I'm saying unity, unity, unity. That's what I'm saying. Umoja Sasa.
Yeah, that's peace. Anyone else want to add on? What do you think is the number one issue at the top of the Pan-African agenda?
Go
Yes,
on,
sir, brother
Sam.
Sam.
The African family. The African family, we need help, man. Listen, I got a guilty pleasure family. Pop the balloon shows. I could watch the pop the balloon programs or the clips all
Who would have
day.
thunk it, Sam?
Hey,
Who would have
yo.
thunk it?
Hey, Slim. That's my guilty
They be
pleasure,
bugging.
man. And hey, yo, from the 20 somethings to like the 40 and 50 somethings, it's just the same ignorance, man. I'm like,
I
yo,
swear.
like the questions and the feedback about why they didn't like the woman or the man. I'm like, yo, like you guys are caught up on some BS, man. And we got to get back to values that people aren't getting from social media, like the whole 50-50 conversation. And it all comes out of a place for us wanting to love on one another again. And we as a family, we just need to have an internal conversation without the bots, because it is social media bots that are driving a lot of the tension. We need one family at a time, just creating something where like African people are united again, where young people don't feel left out, where elders don't feel like they're being pushed to the side, where we all can agree and pass down this culture, knowledge, these attitudes and traditions that'll be good for our people. So until we restore the family, I don't see much else happening. I'm not gonna hold you.
So, if I may, first, Sam, you brought something to mind that I'd like to share.
Yes, sir.
2 weeks ago, was able to take a picture with 4 generations of black men, beginning with me. So I have sons, I have my grandsons, and I have my great grandsons, and my brother.
Wow.
Yeah. The And Sam, you say family. I agree. And Chief, you say we have organizations, so we need unity. And that is exactly what that picture represented to me, that there was still a unity necessary. Now, my sons, as Sam had brought up earlier, were educated in an African independent institution. Of course, their sisters were too. And yet we could stand together. The slogan that they attached was the man, the myth, the legend, as they stood around me to take this picture. 4 generations of black men. So when you
Ashe.
say what is, yes, sir, Sante Sana. So
Yeah,
when you
man.
say what is the number one issue, and Sam says he could do the balloon party, that's what brought the thought. But the number one issue is organization, it is unification, and it is family values. You say that's 3 things, but it's not. It's one. Because with family values, you can build organizations and build the unity that Pan-Africanism, or as Marcus Messiah Garvey, since that's what I relate to as a Garveyite, through universal African nationalism, through the course of African philosophy, taught by Mr. Harvey, taught by Mr. James, taught by those men that he taught that lesson to. He taught us to build the governmental structure, to build the infrastructure that is needed so that when we are able to formalize and incorporate economics, we can do everything that we're talking about through the UNIA ACL Rehabilitating Committee 2020. And I say
Ashe.
that to
Ashe.
say this. That's where it is. See, we really not missing it. We just have it, and yet that infrastructure, which is crucial, it's crucial. We have to have the systems that come in play so that we can support the educational institutions that we build, that we can support the economic engine that we build, that we can support and defend the political institution that we build. And we have
Yes,
it.
sir.
And what we have to recognize, and Chief pointed it out, Sam was pointed out across the board, unity, family values, understanding your universal African nationalism. And so folk come be saying, wait a minute, you're talking about Pan-Africanism. I'm talking about universal African nationalism, from which Pan-Africanism resolves. It evolves and comes out of that, because Garvey said, what one can do, we can do better.
Race
Mm.
first. Race
Race
That's
first,
first.
what's
Baba.
up. That's what's up, man. This is you getting a plethora of information. I'm gonna say it again. The classroom teacher in me is telling y'all watching. This is not for entertainment. You could just say I shade right on. If you need to know this information, get a pen and pencil, jot down some of this information. Very important. Or of course, it's a digital age. You could also go back and watch this all over again. But it'd be very much easier to take very pointed notes. It's very good information. Now, I am curious to know if people want watching this
Before
say,
you go to
man, this
your next question, before you go to your next question, one of the comments that ran across the screen was about the Louisiana being the strongest area for the Garveyism, for the UNIA membership, and I wanted to say, I say that's correct.
all right.
Because
Absolutely.
it ran across the screen. I just wanted to acknowledge that. So I want folks to understand too that people out of South Carolina, out of the Gullah entities, those who have been brought here who don't know who they are, take a minute. Not just look at the color of your skin and say, okay, that makes me black. Find out your history. And that will also lead you to establishing the type of unity within your family that we need you to do within
Yeah.
the race.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Hey,
right.
Baba. You know, even when you're talking about family, we got to remember that our families have been torn apart by the system.
Yes.
So a big part of this unity is knowing who our families are, who we're related to. Get involved in genealogy, study your
Hmm.
history, know who you're related to. All of us have thousands of relatives we have no idea exist. We pass,
Mm,
some of us walk by them every day and can't stand them. They're your cousin. And
Mm.
so just understanding that kind
mm,
of historical familyhood that we have as African people, and understanding how to organize and arrange that. You know, I've lived here for 12 years in Africa, and I've studied the Manding system up close. And the foundation of their traditional society was the Lu, and the Lu is called what the Lu is the extended family. The Lu is literally the extended family. The mother, the father, the grandfather, the great grandfather, the kids, the grandkids, the great
Right.
grandkids. The extended family was the Lu. And then above the Lu, when you had a bunch of Lus organized, you had the Dugu. Dugu means village. So, in other words, for Manding people in the Mali Empire, of all the different ethnic groups, they had one system that was based on the extended family, and then the collective of extended families making up a village, and
Right.
then the collection of villages making up what they call a kafu or clan.
Claim.
And
Right.
so we come from societies with structure, and I think
Yep.
that's really what we're going to put back in place as we merge Pan Africanism, unity. You know, this is a big reason why we're doing this program right now, is because people need to see us. A lot of times the Pan Africanists don't show their faces. We don't come out for these events. We watch from the cut because we're so busy working. But it's important that we come out, especially on times like this, Black History Month. People are looking for the information. So yeah.
You know, I'm glad you said that, Black History Month, because I hadn't even thought about it quite like that. Because I look at African history 365, just for the record.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. But they got our people programmed to 1 month out the year.
Oh, and to that point, not only programmed to it, because they're about to try to take it away from them. The reaction has got to be enormous. It's something that we can use. They want to take it away.
Yeah, but even with that,
Okay.
they can never take it away because folks, who's going to depend on the government? Like even with the whole Juneteenth thing,
Exactly.
like we don't need that. We got our own celebrations, man. Like Black History Month.
Exactly.
Like, come on now, So
I know, but they want to take it. I'm just saying that your point is valid.
yes,
But
sir.
what makes your point valid is the fact that the government can't do it, but the government gonna try like hell.
Of course.
You know?
I think it's that time though. Like,
Yeah, white folks have come to the realization that not only are they a minority, but their power is waning. They depend on us so much that they can't function correctly. And they are now trying to say, can we change that? But in changing that, it is to their own detriment. They can't function without the minerals from the continent of Africa. That's number one. Number two, the military won't be shit without people of African. I apologize, Chief. You told me not to be so emotional. I heard you earlier, but it come out sometime. But it won't be without us. You see, so economically, we are the engine. We drive the engine in America, not white people. See, so they got problems. And now they're trying to figure out how to get the black man, black woman, black family in a different position. And they're able to do it without putting their own people in a different position. They're about to tear their whole structure down. Guess what? The UNIA ACLRC 2020 government of the UNIA is functioning to make sure that we are standing strong in the midst of the rubble. Brother Agyei,
I
you
want
mute.
to move ahead because it's important information I want to make sure the viewers get. Family, again, you're watching Harlem Liberation School online on YouTube. We are here with members of Jicho La Kimbunga Brotherhood formation. That Jicho La Kimbunga stands for Eye of the Whirlwind, which of course comes from the Honorable Marcus Garvey. The question that I have for my brothers is, if people want to increase their understanding of global affairs as relates to our people, of Pan-Africanism, of some of its key pioneers, of the movement, what are some specific book titles, films, or people they should study?
Garvey and Garveyism by Amy Jacques Garvey.
I would say Walter Rodney, How Europe Underdeveloped Africa. Very, very important key book. Many people in the diaspora don't understand exactly how they got the continent in this position. But I believe Walter Rodney was one of those
One of the best.
Pan-Africanists that was really able to study Africa in an unbiased way as a Pan-Africanist and bring certain things to light that even the Africans on the continent are able to benefit from. It's almost like, you might be able to give me some criticism that helps me see myself more clear so I can shape up. And so Walter Rodney's book, How Europe Underdeveloped Africa, it really explained even to Africans in the continent how how they have been duped all this time and how they was put into this position. So, yeah.
Any other materials you think people should read?
Yes,
I
sir.
definitely like Philosophy and Opinions of Marcus Garvey.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Sam.
I would say Neocolonialism, The Last Stage of Imperialism by Kwame Nkrumah. Yeah, that's going. People need to know. Stop blaming.
That's where we at right now.
Yeah,
where we at right now, brother.
They need a lot of nuance around what's happening. They need to understand what the true power is. I was just talking to an elder today. That's why I came on here late. I was with some young people. We'll just, she had mentioned meeting Winnie Mandela in her job about like 30 years ago or so. And then Winnie, may her soul rest in peace, was talking about her falling out with Nelson Mandela. And she said part of her falling out was, this is already on record. She was saying that Nelson Mandela was too caught up in white papers meaning like treaties and constitutions, things like that, when dealing with those Boers over there, right? Not white South Africa. We call them Boers or Dutchmen, right? So because he got caught up in that, Winnie Mandela said, South Africa wasn't free. You know, she wanted more of an emphasis on land and resources. And that's where we are right now with Ramaphosa and Julius Malema versus Elon Musk and Donald Trump, because the land question has not been answered. And we see the same case, you know, Robert Mugabe, love him or hate him, he attempted the same thing. And, you know, to this day, Zimbabwe's currency is still messed up, right? So there's a lot of factors going on as to why Africa has not been able to flourish in the post-independence era. You know, a lot of people don't understand that context. And another thing we got to look at is, you know, with Africa not being united, a lot of people getting caught up in their nationalities and such. And one more thing I do want to bring up is with my mind, currency control. I mean, that's where I'm at with it, basically. Like, well, my last point. Political scientists say that every 25 years of a country's existence is comparable to 1 year of a human life. So look at that in the context of our current African nations, right? The Ghanas, whichever else, right? Take how long they've been independent, divided by 25. That's their real age. And same thing for the U.S. The U.S. is about to be 250. So the U.S. is really 10 years old. It ain't even 10. So these are young political structures that are not mature. So we got to keep that in mind when we talk about neo-colonialism and exactly why it is Africa is still, you know, still developing, so to speak.
I agree. You know, I learned something from Chairman Omali Yesitela a few years ago. It was very early in my political ideological journey, and you know, he always said one thing: one Africa, one nation, and that's really what all of this is about. It's about forming a nationality that encompasses every African, that every African can identify with as a primary political identity in the world. Very, 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 very important. So there's a lot of books, but I think the three that we named are some critical books that we should actually do some studies around, some study groups around. You know, I was just telling my wife, I muted the mic. I said this would be great study group material to take. You know, a chapter of Garvey this month and a chapter of Walter Rodney next month, and take a chapter of Kwame Nkrumah next month, and it just be ongoing. It'd be an ongoing political conversation. Brothers and sisters can participate. They can read the same sections, and then we get together and chop it up in front of people so the people can even get the analysis. Because I think we have a job as Pan-Africanists to provide the people with analysis. We have a great opportunity to do it, but we also have an obligation to do it. So thanks again for even opportunity, Baba Agyei.
Oh man, I'm building on you brothers. Every time we meet, I learn something new. I love it. I'm just trying to export this out to the rest of our people so they can learn something new and get activated, man.
I wanted
my pleasure. Can I
wanted to
real
also
quick, because I want to make sure I get this through. I'm gonna give you time.
Race and History by John Hope Franklin. It's another book that I think is essential. It deals with essays from 1938 through 1988. It covers a myriad of topics, and we haven't mentioned John Hope Franklin today, but we should also mention him as being a contributor to the philosophy of Pan-Africanism and African development and racial development, because there are so many giants that oftentimes we will miss. But as Chief Foday was talking and Sam was talking, I'm looking at my bookcase and this book is jumping out at me. You ain't mentioning me. You ain't mentioning me. So I said, okay, I heard the book. I'm going to bring the book up. And I want to let y'all know we need to check that out too. Because when Chief say study from this book, study from that book, yeah, I could deal with that, Chief. And then we study from this one and we add Garvey and Garveyism in there. We just do it. I'm all right with that. But thank you. Go ahead, brother.
Thank you. When the Pan-African vision is fully realized, what will the world look like for Black people, for African people around the world? What will it look like? When you achieve what we
Wow.
want, what's it going to
You
look?
know
Because this
what?
is
You
important.
know what,
See, we're
brother?
now in the future section of this conversation. We talk about the past, talk about present. What will it look like when we
You know,
achieve what we say we out to achieve? Very important.
When we achieve the development of an African nation and we have the systems in place for African people to flourish and thrive, we will not see hunger and we will not see illness on the continent of Africa. We will not see African children trying to be Europeanized. We will see African children growing righteously with the knowledge of who they are and moving in the direction of continuing their formation moving forward. I think what we will also see is a world that recognizes that we are not the footstool. You do not stand on us, because now we stand as not only your equal, but those who will lead you to where you got to go. Every race in this world is a derivative of us. They don't exist without us. And they have struggled and mightily to try to make themselves better or greater than us. When we stand in the world as the leadership that we need to be, the world will be not only a safer and a better place, it'll be a place that allows us to continue to grow and develop. We are the beginning, damn it. I ain't standing
That's
in
right.
line for nobody.
yeah,
That's
yeah. You know, I think that the liberation and unity of Africa will restore justice to the world in a way that the world may have not been able to see for thousands of years. I think that for the African man to reemerge as a world player in this era is going to actually probably be the most single liberating thing that the world can go through. You know, we have an earth to save. These people have destroyed the actual environment we live in. It's not just a thing about human beings. They've destroyed the environment we live in. You know, they've destroyed the air that we breathe. And so I believe that Africans in our African selves, we're more nature loving, and we're going to take care of the world better. We're going to show these people how we can do this without fossil fuels. We're going to show them how we can do this with water, with plastic. That's what we're doing right now. You got young engineers and young inventors in Africa right now, finding out how to do things that's unbelievable. It's unfunded. These MITs and these people, they come out here and study these young boys that be creating airplanes out of plastic bottles, and then they take them
Right?
and hide them away. And next thing you know, they're producing all these new technologies. They're stealing the African genius. So one of the things that the African genius will belong to us again. Finally, our own
Mm-hmm.
productions will belong to us. We'll be able to restore justice in the world. One thing we're fighting for is justice. Let us not forget that the world is upside down right now. It's not right side up. Some of us would say Mayat. We want to restore the world to justice and order. And right now, if you look at the world, it's in a very criminal state.
Mm-hmm.
It's out of order. It's morally devilish. And a part of us returning to our throne is bringing in a new era, a new epoch of justice and freedom and prosperity for the whole world. We're going to protect the earth when we get free.
Brother Sam P.K. What do you have to
We're going to
add
free
to
them
that, brother?
all.
No doubt. I mean, I see it being like a. I don't see there being any time where we are going to be totally fully realize the Pan-African vision, because there are just too many moving parts. I what I will say is that it'll be an incremental process, and we will constantly have to defend our work and our progress so that we don't revert. It's the same thing with, like, I think a good example being the European Union. You know, when they did, as they were uniting, to my recollection, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think all of them joined the union at first. So
Correct.
you're always going to have situations where everybody doesn't catch on initially, but it has to happen incrementally, because we got a lot of forces in our way. Two of the biggest being, in my opinion, the language barrier as well as what they call the compradors. So the Black elected officials or Black elected officials who are going to, stand in our way and combat any effort to unite politically. And we also have to be at peace with knowing that all of us may not make it or will not make it. I see a situation existing where there's a Pan-African society that is separate politically from the current post-colonial structures that we got now. And that's what Liberia was intended to be at one point. But I totally see that, being the case along the line, just because realistically it is too multifaceted of an issue. This colonial business, I just don't see there being a future where we're totally in the clear, because you know how it works out. The first generation go through hardship. They put the foundation for the next generation. The next generation, not knowing what happened, they get full and lazy, and then they leave it. You know what I'm saying? Like, nah,
right.
so we ain't never gonna be here.
You speaking about where we are right now, so
yeah, we ain't never.
You ain't saying nothing wrong. You ain't saying nothing wrong. They placed this and planned it, but we can place and plan too. So no, we may not all make it there. We may not all see it. But the question was, what would it look like when it gets there?
Before we go into the next question, I just want to say, people throughout the chat, I want to thank everybody that is watching live. Of course, we're going to probably get a lot more people to watch the later recorded version. But we want to thank you all for sticking in here. We're going to ask you to subscribe to the channel so that we can grow and expand our reach to get this Black political education out to more of our people. But people have been saying throughout the chat, different books. To summarize, I'm going to say, get every book by Dr. Amos Wilson. Let's make it easy. Get every book you can by Amos Wilson. Listen to every speech Amos Wilson gave. Get every book about Marcus Garvey, particularly Philosophy and Opinions, and anything that Tony Martin and Tony Hill have written about Brother Garvey, because they're kind of seen as the Garveyite scholars. Dr. Wilson, sister, I think that's Sister Afua, says African-centered consciousness versus New World Order. Garvey in the Age of Globalism by Dr. Amos Wilson. Cop that. But also, somebody also said, my queen mentions this all the time, and someone else in the chat said there is a movement to ban key books. Yes. And there might be a movement to burn them one day and to remove them from our spaces. So a lot of people in our community are saying that we should go out and purchase these. We should own these books now while we have them available. Digitize them if you can, but we should have them in our possession. Don't assume that Amazon's going to be there forever, or the Black bookstore in your neighborhood is going to be there forever. We should, if we have the money, go out and start getting these books. That said, I want to move to I think the last question, and that is, every good community organizer and activist knows that when they have these meetings, they got the information out, they done did their reports, they done kept people up to date, they got the committees reporting back on this and that, but they need to have a call to action, that people don't just leave without knowing something specific that they are to do. So my brothers, if you were to leave this particular discussion with our people, giving them a call to action, a specific thing that they should do, what would that be as relates to our conversation?
Sam, I'm gonna let you go first.
I think they need to watch it over and over again before making an assessment of where they are locally, like in terms of their local organizing, because again, we got to get beyond the rhetoric. Just look around your community, see what institutions are already existing, how you can assist in those operations. And if there's nothing in your area, just consider doing something, especially as it relates to food, clothing, and shelter. If you can start that, because that's always a good organizing tactic, right? So you help close the gaps, the tangible gaps, before you start feeding the minds of the people. But I would just say start there in terms of like really looking locally and figuring out what's going on in your community and just getting tapped in with the elders, because Pan-Africanism, the books are cool, by all means, let's preserve the books. But there's elders in these spaces, in these major cities, in these backward areas that know the movement inside and out. So we need to be, building with them and making everything possible in that regard.
Yeah, and
And
also to build on Brother Sam, if you know elders in the community and they've been active and they've been in the struggle, or they knew certain important people in the struggle, don't be afraid to say, would you mind if I interviewed you? Sometimes that oral history gets lost. If I get the oral history and I die, it's gone. But if we have recordings of that oral history, we can pass it on. So absolutely, Brother Sam P.K, that's absolutely right and exact. Oral tradition, and try to record it if you can. Try to record the elders.
so,
Brother
so if I
PG.
understand, yes, sir. And if I understood the question correctly, this is my answer. That when after going through your meeting and trying to give people assignments as to what to do, we need to first focus on what is going on where you are. And then you need to make sure that you put together the kind of conversations, not just with the members in your group, but with people as well as elders, because we need to make sure we push the information out. Forward ever, backward never. So say Kwame Nkrumah. So if we're going to continuously move forward, we must first of all understand where we are today and what is needed in order to make tomorrow different. That's why your question as to what would it look like? Here's part of what it will look like. It will be having the conversations, recording the information, sharing it with young people, bringing young groups together, bringing young study groups together, challenging them with the mentality that they have to continuously create and move us forward, to challenge the young males and females, because you brought up earlier the type of arguments that exist that cause us trying to be, what was the word? Trying to be the, I see my word would be hoodlum, but that ain't the word that was used. Gangster. Trying to be the gangster, trying to fit into the mold that is established for them. Let's break the damn mold and say to our young people, this is the direction you should go. You should be a Sam P.K. Collins. You should be a Chief Foday. You need to have a mold that says to you, this is what a black man is supposed to be. This is what a black woman needs to be. I've seen comments from sisters across the world. You want to be a black woman, that when a black man stands inside of you, he feels like he's standing in the sunshine. See,
Yes, sir.
we have to begin to lay those foundational conversations. It ain't about how less clothes you have. It is about how strong your mind is. It is how strong your values are, how strong your principles are, what you will and won't accept. You know, a sister can make a brother better or worse. If she says, this is my place in standing in the world, can you stand with me? And a brother has to be able to say, I can not only stand with you, my queen, I can be your king and stand alongside you and move you forward. Because see, that's when we get to the balloon celebrations. You don't get there. You don't get there just doing stuff. You see, we have to chart the course, and you chart the course, and I'm going to lean back to you chart the course to also looking at what's around you. You may be in an organization, but I'm going to say to you, you need an affiliation with the UNIA HCL RC 2020. I'm not trying to tell you what to do. I'm trying to say what we need to do. And what we need to do is not only unify, organize, we have to build the structures that we talked about earlier. We have to build the infrastructures. They have to build the economic infrastructure, build the political infrastructure. We have to build the social infrastructure. The UNIACL has, in his history, brought that together. And we have to duplicate that, because what will stand in the world will be the government that we create that unifies all of Africa, wherever Africa is, be it in the islands, be it in the states. Because America, as Sam said, is only 10 years old. She might not make 12.
That's powerful. Do we okay, brother is back. Brother Chief, what do you have to add to that? What's the call to action for the black people watching this show that's going to get amped up by all this information and insight?
Oh yeah. Well, you know,
What's
the call to action is to
for 'em?
the call to action is to get involved. Find people local to you within your region, your state, your town. Look for people online. Chase the information. Gather knowledge first. And situate yourself with people that, like you said earlier, Baba, get around people smarter than you. Humble yourself. Learn some new things. Have some new experiences. You know, also culturalize yourself. I would say our call to action would be to join the UNIA ACL RC 2020. Become a formal member because in reality, the UNIA includes all black folk around the world in our constituency. We consider ourselves to be the government for every single black person on the face of the earth.
Correct.
And so everybody's UNIA. But so when I say join up and get involved, what I mean is formally become a member, card carrying, get involved with a local division, and participate in the process of restoring this ideal in our community. One thing that's very important that came out of the pardon was that the Garveyites, we already know that we exonerate Garvey. We clear on our position. But for people who may not be Garveyites and people who are a part of the general community, some people may have just heard Marcus Garvey's name for the first time. Some people may have only just realized, wow, he was innocent. And so for us, it's a win-win either way it goes, but we know that we exonerate Garvey, we exonerate our ancestors. They lynched Nat Turner. They said he was a criminal. We
Right.
exonerate them all. We
That's right.
exonerate them all.
That's
And
right.
so that's the power of what we have, and we will call you to join us in this because it's going to happen no matter what. It is happening no matter what. The reemergence of the Universal Negro Improvement Association is happening right now before your face, even on this conference here, because I believe 3 of the 4 on your screen are active members. We're actively involved in the UNIA, restoring the RBG to its proper height and flying in the air. And so the thing is, we can come together where we know our people have been successful in the past with more confidence than creating something new that don't got no promise in future. The UNIA has the organizational structure to include us all.
Right.
It's the only organization that you only need 7 people locally who have genuine African identity and interest to form a local division. And you don't have to be involved in everything. You might just be involved in maintaining Kwanzaa and one aspect, cleaning the community. But I would say join the UNIA and get involved. Some of us are parts of other organizations, and that's fine. I myself, I actually started an organization that I consider Garveyite, but I still felt it obligatory for me to be a formal member of the UNIA as well. To me, in my principles, it was a contradiction for me to be a Garveyite and have my own organization on the side, but not be in the ranks of the actual institution that Marcus Mosiah Garvey gave his life to create for the race. And so it was a contradiction. I think even if you're in a other organization, we got room for you. It's one God, one aim, one destiny over here, one Africa. So I would call everybody to join the UNIA ACL RC 2020 under the Right Excellency Baba PG Akilki Nkrumah, because right now we've been making it move for 5 years straight, and it's not being reported. But that's the reason why you see the strength of the ideological resolve on this current presentation.
Ashe.
Baba Chief, that's an excellent, specific call to action. If someone's watching us and say, yeah, man, I want to join a UNIA, I want a chapter where I'm at in my city, what's the first step? Who do they call? Is there a number? Is there an email somebody can get to help them in that process?
If you want, you can email and our Anthony Murphy 62 at gmail.com, and I can move the needle for you.
That's what's up. Repeat that one more time, PG.
Yes.
Repeat your email one more time.
Anthony Murphy 62 at gmail.com. And I can move the needle for you to where the discussion needs to go and get the assistance that you need in order to develop your own division and continue to move us forward. Yes, sir, Chief Foday.
Yeah, Baba, I want to say to the people out there who will hear this and you're hearing from the President General of the parent body, the President General of the institution. Baba Akilki's so humble that he doesn't emphasize his position, but that's who he is. He's making this call. And it's the same as if Marcus Garvey was here live today making the call. And so I'm saying, honestly, heed the call, find a way to connect with us, We friendly. You know, we ain't about all the drama. We about all the work. That's what we about.
Yep.
We want work. We want to get free. So if you want to get free with us, y'all welcome. And also, I'll say this: don't be intimidated by organization because we work
Right.
together. We truly
Right.
believe in putting our strengths together and honoring each other's positions on the chessboard. And you know, we've been building the last 5 years. When you hear RC 2020, what that means is Rehabilitating Committee 2020.
Right.
In 2020, PG Akilki took us through the process of beginning the rehabilitation of the UNIACL. And for the last 5 years, we've been doing that. We have at least 6 divisions on the continent of Africa.
Right.
We have a central commission over those committees. We have UNIA divisions in Central America, South America, the Caribbeans, all across the United States. And so this movement is growing, including even the UK. We're already there. Join us, make it
Right.
stronger. If you're going to bear the RBG, at least respect where it comes from. At
Right.
least become a formal member. You know, it's not about making money for us. It's about getting free. So if you're about this liberation struggle, please, it's a call of action.
All
Call of
right.
action.
Are there any last words as we come to the close of the program? Are there any last words from any of my brothers on this distinguished panel that you wanted to say, but you didn't get to say to the audience?
So to the audience, to support my brother Chief Foday and my brother um, Sam P.K. Collins and some of those who are listening, we are dedicated to moving our race into the proper position. We are dedicated to building the government in the strength that it needs to be. You see, it is essential that we not allow those who are inactive to chart the course. It is important that those of us who stand strong become a part of the whirlwind. Marcus Messiah Garvey said, "Look for me in the whirlwind, and I will be the real Marcus Garvey." The UNIA ACLRC 2020 is that beacon of light for the real Marcus Garvey, because that Garvey would not have taken any prisoners and wouldn't have been so nice. Join us
I say,
as we
say
move
that,
forward.
Baba.
Join us as we move forward.
I just want to shout out real briefly Malcolm X and Patrice Lumumba, 100th anniversary. Of course, I remember y'all touching on it as I was coming in, but we definitely got to. Malcolm told us to look to Congo. Patrice Lumumba, of course, was taken out. And, you know, we see what's going on now between Congo and Rwanda. And if I recall correctly, even South Africa, right? So we definitely got to just, you know, keep that in mind and be very aware of how history repeats itself, especially when you don't do what you got to do.
Ashe.
That's right. Is there anything else that anyone wanted to say before we log out? Okay. If not, I want to thank you, my brothers. I'm really looking forward to our February 22nd broadcast where we're going to highlight Brother Malcolm, Brother Patrice Lumumba, and Brother Frantz Fanon. And as many of you have said, there's so many other people that were born in 1925 as well that we want to honor and commemorate, but also to emulate and continue their actual work, right? And so we
Ashe.
thank you,
Ashe.
Brother PG, Brother Killy. Thank you, Brother Sam P.K. Collins. Thank you, Brother Chief, all of you for not just being on today, but for all the work that you have done prior to this point. One of the things that people don't understand about champions and winners is that when you see them win, you're seeing the very last result of a culmination of a lot of work. They in the gym when everybody's asleep. They lifting weights when everybody's complaining. They running when everybody's just laying down, chilling, drinking. So the fact that you're here and able to stand so strong and speak so eloquently and be so active in the community is the result of work. And I know that, Brother Chief, we said work a lot. I don't want people to see work as a bad thing. I want them to see it as a good thing. We all do work. It's just some of us work for things that are constructive and beautiful and uplifting, and some people work for foolishness, and some people work for pleasure.
No,
We're just saying take that energy and point it in a direction where my vision is that our kids can go out in their neighborhoods or that we control, see people who look like them in every sphere of influence, and be safe, where people can chart their destiny with no artificial barriers holding them back, where people don't have to worry about wars caused by incompetent and ignorant narcissists who don't know anything about government,
Yeah, man.
where
Yeah,
we
man. Say
own the
that.
means of production, where we run the government. I mean, so that's what the work is for, family. This is not just, we're not here just talking. I want to thank you all for coming out. Come check out Kimbunga Media on YouTube on February 22nd. I believe we said that's at 1 p.m. Eastern, brothers.
Yes, sir. 1 p.m. EST.
Don't just eat that food by yourself. My grandmother used to say food tastes better when you share it. So make sure you share that with everybody you know. Every African, you know. I need to clarify that. Share that with the brothers and sisters you know so that they can tune in for that very important information. Thank you, brother PG, brother Sam, P.K. Collins, brother Chief,
Thank
brother
you, Baba.
Mansa Ajamu Foday. Thank y'all, man. Love you, brothers. Love what you're doing and what you're about.
Yes,
Brother
sir.
PG, I'm gonna hit you up,
you,
my
brother,
brother.
and
I got
love the
some
work that
questions
you do.
for you. All right.
Hit us up, brother. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. All right, family. With that said, peace and black power. One love, free the land, and we're gonna be free, but we got to do the work. If we do the
One
work and
God,
organize,
one aim,
get past the
one
petty
One
destiny,
differences.
destiny,
one
one
Africa.
Africa.
That's
One
it.
Africa.
There
Yeah,
it is.
man. Race first.
Race
Race
first.
first, always. Peace, family.
Peace.
Watch this again and again. Take them notes if you ain't had that pen and pad out. Peace.